Tennessee State head coach Eddie George, the Tigers, winners of 4 in a row. They're going to have a big matchup now. They have one conference loss. They'll go to number 11 UT Martin, who sits in first place at 3-0 in the conference standings on Saturday afternoon. So, Coach, just some thoughts on the Big Blue, and then we'll go to some questions.
Again, going back to last week, I felt like we learned a lot about ourselves. Not the way we wanted to finish the game, when you're up with 21-0, but we found a way to put a drive together when it counted, and found a way to make a stop defensively for the win. And, those are character wins, especially in late October, early November. And these are the games you want to play in, against a top-ranked opponent at their place, in the conversation of probably competing for OVC championship. Guys are excited. They're familiar with this opponent. Clearly, they've gotten better since the spring. They're riding high on a 7-game win streak. They know how to play from behind. They know how to play with the lead. They're battle tested. They're a tough physical group, and it's a great challenge for us to see exactly where we're at. I mean, this is a great barometer to see where we are as a program, where we need to go. So, we're going to go out and play our type of football and let the chips fall where they may.
Thanks, Coach. If you got a question for Coach, let me know down in the chat, and I can call on you. Mike Organ, you're up first.
Andy, you've throughout your career from high school, college, and pros, you've always been involved in a team that has been in the mix for the postseason each year. Is there a different vibe that kicks in that can't be brought about any other way when you're still in contention and that big pot of gold is still out there in front of you at this point in the season?
Well, I tell you,
the team,
everybody's beat up around this time of year. You're dealing with nicks, bruises, and you're kind of tired. You're sore. It's been a long year. But when you are playing for something, that those pains and aches don't hurt as much. You're tired. I think the excitement kicks in terms of, hey, this is what you worked for. This is what the summer was for. The summer conditioning, the training camp, the hills, all the things that went into preparing you for this season. You're now seeing the fruits of that, and now it just goes to another level. I know the kids are excited. It's been a long time, around here at least, that we're talking about postseason play, the opportunity to play in that. These kids have worked their tails off to put themselves in this position. Our coaching staff has too. And it's exciting times to be in this position. You're looking at SEMO, you look at UT Martin, you look at us, you look at Austin P. We all can say that, hey, we have a chance to be a champion of our conference, and that means something.
Brian McKeegan has a question. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Eddie, I was wondering if you could just talk about the progression that you've seen with your quarterback, Jeremy, and how he's grown, I guess, probably since we started in August to where he is now. He seems like he's really taken quite a few steps.
Yes, quite a few steps. And you factor in that Jeremy didn't get here until the summer. We really didn't know what his skill set was other than watching it on Huddle and on tape. We knew that he could spin the ball. We didn't know that he was a dynamic runner the way he is. He seems to surprise us with his runs, the clutch runs that he's had for us this season. So, I give all the credit to Jeremy for coming in on his free time and understanding what we're trying to do, taking the crash course, so to speak, and for Hugh's offense. I gave this analogy, or this illustration of Jeremy right now is trying to drink out of a fire hydrant. It's coming out 1,000 miles an hour. He's just trying to get a sip, and there's a lot being thrown at him, but he's taking it in bits and pieces. I think Coach Hugh Jackson and our offensive staff has really pared it down to where he understands it, where he can make the play calls. He knows the concepts of the offense, and he's not overwhelmed with too much. And that's been an ongoing process. It's something that it's not rock solid, something that we deal with week to week. What can we do to help expand this young man and exploit his talents? It's been exciting, frustrating at times, but we're starting to see the plays that he's capable of making when he's put in position to do that. So a lot of credit goes to Hugh, goes to Jeremy, goes to our offensive staff for being flexible and really doing improv in terms of our offense and we're trying to do and be successful.
Mike, do you have a follow-up question? I want to make sure.
Yeah, I do. Eddie, you mentioned adjustments. How much adjustments have been made on the offense since the start of the season to today? You had a different quarterback. You've had receivers that have emerged. I mean, where is this offense compared to where it was?
I think it's light years ahead. I know I mentioned that at the beginning of the season, success for us was getting the play call right and getting the play off on time. We could care less hard or not. It was just, hey, we got it off on time before the 40-second clock. So those adjustments had to be made in terms of how we get the play call in, how it's being said, doing some things that they're comfortable with, that they're used to doing, where we had to be flexible and adjust certain things that we've done, and instead of trying to fit a circle peg into a square hole, or into a square, we've had to adjust and maneuver and really find the win-win where these kids are, where we want them to be. It's kids that have just been growing up every single week, like Zaire Thornton, our receiver. He's been a phenomenal surprise in the passing game. Fat Cat's also been a huge playmaker for us, for Starling. Then you have Rodell Rahman, who has just been a superstar playmaker for us, and also our other tight ends. That's been a pleasant surprise. But offensive line wise, we've been mixing and matching different groups to find out, who can be more consistent up front for us. And that's one area that I say that hasn't been stable. It's been that, but they're fighting their asses off every week, and we're trying to make the best out of the situation. And these kids are fighting every time.
My last question would be, how much of a vibe and excitement do you sense around the program with where you guys are contending for a title compared to where you felt when you first got there? Of course, there was some excitement when you first got there. Maybe go back to the spring when you were visiting just to watch games.
Well, watching games, I mean, it wasn't a whole lot there in terms of excitement. People were just generally like kind of fed up with the status quo in terms of the production that was on the field. And that's no disrespect to the previous regime. That's just the nature of the business. And when I was hired, there was some skepticism. There was excitement. There was a lot of boo birds. But my goal was to get my arms around these kids, understand them, understand their needs, understand the needs of the program before I was going to be understood in terms of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to change things. And that's still an ongoing process. We're not even a year into it in terms of being here. We're roughly 7 months in, to be honest with you. So we're still learning, we're still understanding, we're still navigating through the TSU water, so to speak. And we're asking for some things to change. We're trying to adjust to accept certain things. There's a lot of compromise within the situation. And that's a part of it. But ultimately, it's about, giving to these kids and the personal development of these kids. It's a personal development program through football. And I guess they're starting to see what we're preaching kind of works. And they're saying, okay, how can we grow from here? So I think we're just scratching the surface on what we can do. And we've been blessed enough and lucky enough to pull off some wins in the process.
Last question, we'll let you go, Coach. You talked about the offense, the defense. You're now the #1 statistically ranked defense in the OVC. You blinked Eastern Illinois, and then you held Murray to 21-0 in the first half. But just how's that defense come along and progressed since you mentioned the offense earlier?
Well, listen, Brandon has done a fantastic job of not overwhelming the kids with too much. I think as coaches, you can come in with these grand ideas and these exotic formations and blitzes and all of these things that you envision what you want to do to get after a team, but understanding that, not everybody learns the same. Things happen fast. We haven't had a spring to really implement our system, so less is more. That being said, bend but don't break approach and saying, all right, we're going to be identified by toughness in the trenches, like Hawkins and Jones and Horton, Ray Horton, TD Patterson. I mean, TD has really come on as a force in the defensive line, playing at the end position, the buck position. Had 3 sacks last week, and the plays of our linebackers and Deshaun Bryant and James Green has been phenomenal. Our back end has been great. There's been growth there, with Reese coming in last week, getting an interception. And Corey Rahman and Eddie Graham, the 2 grad transfers that came in, providing culture, and it has just been phenomenal. So those guys take great pride in what they do. And once, I think what would really happen, I think after we lost to SEMO as bad as we did, it took a long look at themselves in the mirror and say, we are not as tough as we think we are. We need to get tougher. And I think it was a challenge to them. They've accepted that challenge, and they've been playing relatively well since then.
Anybody else? Anything for Coach George?
I'm good.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time this morning. Best of luck on Saturday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Eddie.